Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Bonsoir. The Canadiens de Montreal are proud to select David We planned it that way. David Reinbacher.
The 1-1. And Abreu smokes it out to center field. Carlson going back, still going back. Looking up. See you later! Jose Abreu goes deep to right center. A 2-run shot. And it is 10-7 Astros.
And Santana unloads deep to left, and this one is gone. 2-run homer for Carlos Santana. And the Pirates start off with a 2-0 lead against Blake Snell and the Padres.
The pitch. And he swings and lines one to deep left field. This ball is gone! It's a line drive, grand slam home run into the Cleveland bullpen in left. And Jose Ramirez with the first grand slam of the year for Cleveland.
Hit high in the air, left field. That one way back. Rooker looking up. That one long gone. Giancarlo has found the seats. Stanton goes yard into Mount Davis, the elevated seating in left center field. And it surely was a Stantonian blast. 422 feet. And Herman, the righty, deals to the plate. Swung on, ground ball to third. Donaldson's up with it. He throws to first. Domingo Herman has pitched a perfect game. For the fourth time in the history of the New York Yankees, perfection attained.
It's that time again. Good morning. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. We are in a building that feels like it's shaking every time thunder rolls through.
Is this like, this is just getting started, right? We're not
Much needed weather.
okay, because I'm just hoping this continues for a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shane said it's supposed to pour at 9.
Well, he doesn't know.
You don't think he checked the weather? He just guessed?
No, he's
just outside vaping and he's like
typically
putting his finger in the air.
on point with weather. By the way, Shane, did you get your power situation figured out? Because I saw some reports on the news when you and Ravi were going back and forth about how you'd lost power along Dodge. I saw earlier in the day a car had hit a power line. That wasn't it?
I don't think that was it, but it was on the same road. It was there was a down power line at I believe it was off of Leavenworth, 120th and Leavenworth, I believe. So, and it's kind of ironic though that before you guys have given me crap about not being able to get into my garage for not having power, and then Ravi had
you crap. No,
Ravi had the same issue.
He couldn't get his car out.
I was like, yeah, let's go get something to eat. And like, well, I guess I can't get the car out of the garage.
What would you have done?
You didn't manually lift it?
But it was funny, though, because in my apartment building, you just saw a mass exodus of people. Probably going to get something to eat or going to the store or something, since there was no power, so there was no air conditioning or whatever.
Everybody was walking?
Everybody was leaving.
Huh. Interesting.
Would you rather hit a power line or that brick that is next door to our neighborhood? If you had to choose an incident.
I guess I'd take the brick. The brick is less forgiving, but the power line
could be
detrimental. Could kill you a lot easier.
Regardless, you'll take your car over to Dingman's afterward.
Yeah. Ding. Yeah, they smashed that brick turning into the neighborhood. But so what'd you end up doing? Just walking across the street to like Quick Trip, or what'd you do?
No, I was just
went
sitting
over to
there.
Jericho's and got you a steak? Or?
Menards?
No.
Got some cereal?
No, Menards would have taken him too long for the walk.
That would have been about right. I mean, it was about an hour or so.
Wow. So you were only without power for an hour?
For about an hour.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
I
wasn't
remember
great,
a couple times in the last handful of years, we were without power when I lived way north off of Ida. And it almost scared me into wanting to get a generator.
I feel like being without power is much easier today than it was 15 years ago.
Well, I'm that's probably the case. Like with most things.
Because I could just, if I'm only out without power for an hour, I could sit on my couch and scroll on my phone for an hour.
Yeah,
and it's easy to be informed about it too. Like my apartment complex, I mean, they were sending you texts saying, "Hey, we're out of power. There's no telephones. This, that, and this," and they're working on it. We'll keep you.
I don't know if I would worry about that as much as you get to like some magical marker, and I start worrying about stuff in the fridge. I'd be the guy that would like,
don't open it.
Yeah.
Don't open the fridge. Zoe, close the fridge.
Totally. I would totally be that.
Who
guy.
left the freezer open?
So you were fed and you got back. We saw you yesterday, so we know nourishment was good.
Yeah, nourishment was good.
What'd you end up eating?
When the power was out?
Yeah, no, like whenever. What was?
I don't know.
You said you were going to get something to eat.
Did you
No, I
eat
was.
once
I
when the power was
wanted
out?
to go get something to eat.
So what
but
did you end up eating?
Nothing, because I didn't really have anything to eat, and I couldn't go anywhere. So
You just
I just
forgot about it?
starved.
I just sat there, stared at the wall.
So you didn't end up eating?
Probably later in the day, yeah.
Probably. As if
I
he doesn't know if he ate.
It's so frustrating. Just answer the question.
I don't know if I ate or not. I might not have.
Shane, did you cook food?
I did not
you
cook
just
any
pull a
food.
box of cheese
I don't
out of the
It's okay.
I don't-
pantry.
I'm ready to move on.
I don't usually cook food.
I don't have the temperament.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Good morning, Damon.
Shut the heck up. Let's move on. Like, I don't know if I ate. Too much, man. Just answer the goddamn question, man. Did you eat? If you don't want to say what you ate, say that. Stop dragging it out. Feel like I'm talking at home or something.
Hey, you know who did eat yesterday?
Ridiculous.
Domingo Herman
Yeah, he did.
threw a perfect game, 24th pitcher in MLB history to throw a perfect game. Do you remember when we had that prompt of like the cycle?
It's just
and we
a
were
couple
both-
of weeks ago.
We were both like, hey, yeah, the cycle's probably the hardest. And then
No,
Our-
we didn't say that. I didn't think the cycle was very hard. The cycle probably shouldn't even been one of the choices, but
I think the cycle was the only choice.
we should have moved on from that because we figured out, I think later on in the
We did.
morning, we were talking to like Matt DeMarinis or
Mhm.
something. We're like, oh, there's a lot more difficult things to do
Mhm.
than the cycle. But
I
perfect.
want to
game.
say I settled on the cycle when we first talked until I got proven wrong.
I was talking off air. I can't believe a quarter of the perfect games have been done by Yankees pitchers.
Yeah, that's pretty bizarre.
Right?
1 out of 6, 20%. Yeah.
Well, 4 out of 24 is 1 out of
No,
6.
25. Yeah, you're right.
I
Good
mean,
math.
No,
you've been on math.
no,
the last
no,
2
no, no.
days.
It's not great math because that's 1 out of. So 4 out of 24 is 1 out of 6. It's not 25%. It's 20% roughly. Still, I mean,
So good math by me.
it's like what is going? Maybe it's a Yankee thing.
Yankees have always had deep pockets. They always had strong pitching because of those deep pockets.
Yeah,
Domingo Herman, I wouldn't consider a strong pitcher. Like I feel like he's more the
I'm surprised he got run support.
one-off
That
guys.
hasn't been a thing.
How about this is the first perfect game since Felix Hernandez
Mm.
in 2012.
Oh, but there's only been 24. So how frequent did you think we would have had?
Well, I mean, like every
1 out of about every 10
Every
years.
10 years.
Sounds right. That gives you 240 years of baseball, and they haven't been quite. Yeah, it's about right. They haven't been quite playing it that long that we know for record's
pretty
sake.
impressive.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, it was the A's, but the A's have been winning.
When did Dallas Braden throw his perfect game on Mother's Day?
Oh, you're challenging.
Was that
my
2010?
my Rolodex? I just remember the free flowing locks of one Dallas Braden. I think. Yeah, why is this?
It was 2010, dude.
That's pretty good.
May 9th, 2010. So we had 1 in 10, 1 in 12, and 1 in 2023.
May 9th. That's a couple days before Micah's birthday. 1 day before my nephew's. May 9th.
When was Micah born?
The 13th.
I meant the year.
10.
All right.
Yeah.
So you had a perfect game and you had a perfect son, right?
Oh, not after yesterday.
Oh.
Nah, he's fine. He's just a weird dude. I think he's going through some growing pains. His knees are really hurting him. Like he's sleeping a ton too.
If my knees are hurting me, is that growing pains or is that just?
I think your plates are probably closed. I'm gonna go ahead and
Mm.
guess at 26 years old. I guess
so.
your growth
So
plates
it's
are-
it's starting old age early.
yeah. He's sleeping a little bit more. He's kind of a nap kid sometimes, but he gets up so early.
I'm a nap kid. Well, I get it.
He's probably up right now.
I took a 3-hour nap yesterday.
Yeah, that's a waste of time.
Not for me. It felt great.
That is.
Well, because I took that nap and then, the crew wanted to go celebrate the College World Series. So they went over to a little hole-in-the-wall bar, Brick Street. Does that ring a bell?
You talking about where our crew went?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Brick Street.
And
did you get the barnyard?
I didn't eat. I didn't eat there. So
I don't know if I would have either.
There were some appetizer foods that Sasha had ended up buying, but
that was nice of her.
Yeah, really nice. It was a cool little thing. But after everybody left, David, taller dude, glasses, facial hair.
Our David.
Shoot, yeah. Started throwing darts.
Is he pretty good?
Well, he was throwing, he threw the first two, and I'm like, okay, you hit up close to the center of the board, so you got to be okay. So I'm like, David, let's play some darts. He's like, oh, I'm totally in. And then Video Sam, wanted to play darts too. Yeah. Like, all right, we have 3, so let's do 2 teams of 2. So I yelled Sauter's name, and he wanted to leave. I go, Sauter, you're on my team. He's like, do you need a 4th? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I said you're on my team. And he goes,
oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
No, he ended up saying, my wife's going to kill me.
Yeah.
So he stayed and played darts. And
he may be one of those guys, kind of like, hypochondriac, where they kind of feel something's always wrong with them. He may be one of those guys that just complains about his wife, because for as much as he acts like she gives him a hard time, he sure does what the frick he wants to. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It pertains to the job.
Right? Stop being so dramatic, man. She's probably cooler than a fan.
Having a few beverages pertains to the job sometimes. But so we were throwing, and of course Sauter is talking smack. When is he not?
Shocker.
And he was really, him and David were kind of going back and forth with one another. Mm-hmm. And I think I heard the word a-hole 4 times thrown out toward Mike Sauter's way from David.
Dude, I'm serious, man.
He's like, why are you such this?
Sounds about right. Dude, I think Sauter could cuss in his sleep. It's just
comes naturally.
It just is a thing. It absolutely. He was so mad about the edging up of that grass photo. These MFers and blankety blank.
Yeah, I brought that up yesterday
zooming
too.
in on the 2 blades that I had over the effing sidewalk. I mean, I'm just like, and this is in text. Usually, if it's audible, listen, man, I get it. It happens quick, but when you're texting and having to hit send, you got some time to figure it out. But nah, not my guy.
Nope, not when he starts like that.
I knew when Adam sent that, when he screenshot that pic, it was over. So why you just let this
don't
man
fire him up?
Enjoy.
Please
nice,
don't. Oh,
let
you
this
did
man
it.
enjoy nice
there
things.
You go.
I was talking to my 2 neighbors.
You did it.
My one neighbor, her grandparents come over quite a bit and help her with her yard. I think they finally throw in the towel. They're just letting the backyard go. I'm shocked. I mean, it's kind of an immaculate garden. We were holding some bricks over there for the retaining wall and stuff, and they just have it's just a nice setup. It's yeah. And all of a sudden it's just brown. It's very sad. And then the neighbor.
Maybe today will help.
I don't I don't think there's any magical properties. I know it happened in The Lion King. I don't think it happens in real life.
Oh, it doesn't just grow green after you get some rain.
You know what I mean? But it's become a battle. Save the grass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. At least that's just me.
Now,
my grass looks.
This could be a really dumb question.
Amazing.
But if my grass is brown in parts,
mm-hmm.
by next summer, does it just grow from? Does it grow green from below?
Got to get all your grass seed in, pre-emergence, so you don't mix in the crabby grass and all that other stuff. Yeah, you should be good.
All right.
Are you holding out hope? I need a hero.
Yeah. After I watched my sprinklers try to go off, and some wouldn't even come out of the ground. I had a lot of hope. Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot of skill for it, but there is hope.
Yeah, so I don't know, Shane. I hope you're right about. I hope this isn't premature precipitation, because I want it to rain.
How about having the automatic sprinklers on though while it rains?
You know what? I'd let it ride. because the 1 hour, the 30 minutes that it may trickle down right now is not worth the resetting of the whole sprinkler system. And I mean, that's for a big property. I mean, that's Cabela's, right?
And that grass is really green.
Yeah, it's borderline plush.
I'd go lay in it.
Yeah. I don't know
Not right now.
that. You guys are different. Enjoy laying.
Oh, you don't lay in grass?
I don't lay in grass. No.
That's how I know if my grass is plush or not.
No. But, you know.
You're not a hammock guy either.
Heck no.
Missing out. You're missing out.
What do I want sun for?
It's not about having sun. You can have the hammock in the shade. It's about like the relaxation piece of the
being
whole thing.
outside.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys like to sit in your garages too. What is it about being
Not
one
me.
with nature?
Not me.
It's like,
You know what's so funny about that? I got offered to go.
by you guys, I mean on air,
Young kids, right?
on air,
Young 26-year-old
on air
kids.
talent.
Uh-huh.
Don't quote me on that.
So I got offered to go tent camping next month.
Like glamping or camping?
No, camping.
Okay. Are you?
What do you think I said? I said, no, I'm not going.
I thought there's like a specific question, like is there television?
Oh, no. But that would have been another follow-up question, yeah. No, if it was like an RV, I would have said, yeah, let's do it. But I'm not one with nature like that.
No.
Mm-mm. No. Because at least when I'm laying in my hammock, guess what's 20 steps back toward the door? AC.
Yeah, it's been hot. Like this sky right here is like, look what color your car. Like this sky is kind of scary. I hope it does rain.
It should.
Like
it should really rain.
Because it's my favorite. Fall is my favorite season. But usually you get the overcast stuff and you get the drizzles and it's only about 40 and that smells like like I like fall the best, but this reminds me, outside of the fact it's probably still 80 out,
maybe more.
The sky looks sweet.
I mean, we wear long sleeve. Well, you wear long sleeves every day, but the reason I
was at 7-on-7 the other day, and the cat goes, God, just watching you makes me uncomfortable. Like, I get it. I've heard you say you want to keep the sun off your arms, but man, it just looks hot. And I almost pulled a. I was almost I was almost like, oh no, feel my forehead, feel my skin. This dude had been like, come on, man, it's not that serious. I believe you. I'll take your word.
Well, I was going to say we wear long sleeves
I'm not
every day,
anything.
And that's just because we sit in. I mean, what do we put the AC on?
It's 68 right now.
68. So walking in from the car is always very warm.
Well, there's
always. It's 76 right now, by the way. So you were close.
Yeah. I'm not a
high today, 91. This is just the Apple weather app, but look at the storm.
I don't know how to read radar. What's the yellow? Is the yellow rain?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be about an hour earlier, probably about 8. It's just going to storm.
That's storm right there.
Yeah. Is it so? Shane, do you feel good about that? You answered that question a lot easier than what'd you have for.
I don't remember what I had to
dinner.
eat.
I know,
but he knows how to read radar.
The number one reason why I got rid of satellite. Is happening right now.
Darn.
It wasn't even the fact that I was paying like $273 a month. It was, I'm sick of seeing the troubleshooting sign every time there was inclement weather. I'm like, you guys serious?
Do you have TV?
It's 2023. How are we still having trouble with signals?
Do you have TV or do you stream only?
Pardon?
Like, do you have cable or do you stream?
I do not have cable.
Okay.
I am just a streamer.
Listen to it. Here it comes.
This is my man Josh got me. Well, and Severe. He and Severe both got me off of. Wow, it is coming down. Let's go.
You're dang right.
Shane, are your windows down?
No.
Sun is down. Freezing cold.
That's what we already know.
So the A's are the only team in the last 15 years to have a perfect game and have one thrown against them.
Yep.
It's pretty good. They're in the record books
for something.
Well, that's cool.
Outside
15-year span, your franchise has experienced a perfect game on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
I know, that's kind of cool.
If you were Herman,
yes, he's probably still on one.
Are you cool with
Felix on one?
Are you cool with having that at like in Oakland? Right? Are you cool with it being in Oakland? in front of like 2,000 people.
Before last night, there were only 23 of them. So I'll take it.
Like you're cool with it anywhere?
Yeah.
I feel like any other ballpark. Like
so what I really should have done had I stayed up longer last night was see what baseball team had the worst record that had the perfect game thrown against them. Because sometimes I feel like you may get they weren't very good.
Like if somebody threw it against the Royals this
year. But the perfect game is so difficult to do historically. I don't think you worry about the competition. I don't. I mean, the A's are pretty bad.
Well, and when you're dealing with 30 Major League Baseball teams, like each team has guys that can
capable.
play.
And you're also talking no walks. You got to pick it behind you. You know, I mean that's part of it. That's part of it. By the way, I know we said the Royals, but the A's still have one less win than the Royals. I think the A's only have 21 wins. I think the Royals are at 22.
Right.
By the way, did you see the Rattlers blow it last night late?
No.
Rays just keep coming. 3-2.
I did see Mitch Keller throw 2 strikeouts in the first inning, and then
was that important to you? You're so weird.
Well, because you turned me to this 3-leg parlay, and I did it. Corbin threw 7 Ks, and I'm like, okay.
So
Corbin,
full disclosure, this needs context. Greg Peterson does a lot of stuff for VEASAN. We had him on in my former life a couple of times. So then the last couple of years, I'll turn around a couple of times a season and do like a Big Ten preview for them. So I follow them on Twitter, and they had these big alert things, and it said, hey,
this is the play.
Yeah, surefire, something. And so I was showering or whatever, and I was going to send it to you. I was like, first of all, some of the options, I don't even know where you find, right? Like,
got to scroll.
JD Martinez, total bases, Kopech walks, and I think it was Zach Gallen strikeouts or something. I'm like, where are you going to get like total bases from it? Like,
is that scroll deep?
Really? So that's a thing?
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought it was so ridiculous. I was like, there's only one ding dong I know that would pull this off. And if I wasn't in, like, if
you weren't in the shower,
I was just getting ready to say, I was probably holding my towel or trying to figure out the Bluetooth speaker or something. So I didn't get back to it. Right. I swear, I was like, I said, Greg and these guys sound a lot like you. Laughing emoji or something ridiculous. What I do yesterday morning, I go, man, for laughs and giggles,
let's check.
I just want to check. Yeah, that thing paid out like $438, and I was like, dang, Drew Down could have got rich. Yep. But I still don't know where you would go to do that.
So on mobile, DK, I don't know if I could do it in Lincoln at the kiosk.
You think Andy Kalen?
Yes, because he's peer recruiting me in Council Bluffs as I play sports bets. No, if you scroll deep into DraftKings, you can find those props.
Really?
Yeah. So I did that with Corbin strikeouts, Mitch Keller, and Marte. You brought up, the Rattlers. And Keller had 2 Ks. I needed 6. Had 2 after the first inning. Ended with 5. And Marte went 1 for 4. He needed 2 bases. So it wouldn't have hit anyway because of Keller.
Helen?
But no, different Keller. Mitchell Keller.
Got to be on a C ball straight.
And you got to hear too, right?
That's tough.
We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
It's pretty cool because people kind of know it buzzes ear to ear, but everybody knew that Coach Rule was going to be at one of our basketball games this year. So everybody was showing up wearing their Husker gear. The second he walked into the gym, a Go Big Red chant started, and it was definitely cool. But that just kind of also shows how much the community is behind me. There's a great community here. I mean, there's nothing like I would rather have right now through this moment of my life because they keep me Carter, you know, because some people try to make me Carter Nelson, but they keep me Carter. So.
The top-ranked 2024 prospect in the state is staying home. That's Carter Nelson doing an interview with Mike Sauter yesterday after his commitment.
Sauter stays on those. He keeps them in the can. Sauter's a funny dude. He works hard.
Yeah, he is.
Good on Jerome.
He's crazy because, like,
You think?
he doesn't strike you as somebody that would, like, be that great at his job until you see him in action, and you're like, yeah, there's nobody better than
Somebody sent me
if you know his personality.
Somebody sent me a DM yesterday or the day before yesterday about, me making light of neurosis, which is the noun form of being neurotic. I looked at that for a second and I was like, hey, man, I appreciate the level of sensitivity in 2023. Everybody gets mad about everything. But go read the definition of neurosis. Skip to like the third line. Hang around Mike Sauter for 3 weeks and tell me I'm making light of it. I say it flippantly, but it is 100% true.
Right there.
And he knows it.
He embraces it.
And I'm for it. Because he knows himself. I'm for it. I'm so for it.
It's who he is. He is so Coach Rule would tell him, on my commitment continuum, you've teetered over into Casey Thompson land.
Into obsessed.
You are obsessed. Like, it's a very fine line. A couple steps back the other way, it's very useful. It's very purposeful. Over here, you become a lot to handle. It's just who he, like, that's just who.
It's just him.
Everything makes him mad about his job that other people try to do that aren't to the standard that he feels like he would do it. And that's okay.
Because he keeps himself,
he
internalizes competitiveness,
absolutely,
and he holds himself accountable for everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. He is a pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of guy, and he likes to work.
Yes, sir.
He's just a worker. So he was this poor guy out here with
in and out of the building right now, dropping things off.
And I don't think he has the ability, Cintas. I don't think he has the ability to move fast. So he is at the mercy of the weather.
Hey, you always say slow motion is better than no motion, right?
So I got that from Alvin Mitchell. He said that since I'm talking years, because he's never in a hurry. And I'm like, hey, man, can we get this thing going? Like, what are we doing? Hey, slow motion is better than no motion. And I say it I've said it for probably 15 straight years now. Yeah, I don't think he has the ability to move fast because he walks like it hurts our delivery. Yeah. So
he's up there in age.
Nah, I just think,
he's above the curve.
He's not 50.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's probably 50.
I'll take the over.
Not by much. Hey, Shane, see.
What would you set the over under at? Because it's okay for 50. Me to ask him.
I'll take the he's over. Not coming back in here, though.
Oh, he's done?
I think. Hey, but you know what? I want you to ask him because I think you're misplaying that.
Oh, dang. Yeah, his lights are on. He's totally leaving.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you'd be surprised.
If it wasn't raining, I'd take off the headset right now.
Yeah. We'll sprint out there and catch you.
Hey, man. Real fast.
No. Get your jog game right.
Hey, how old are you?
Shane and I will hold it down.
I know you would. I don't want to get wet.
And you got on white, you'd be crazy.
Yeah.
And it's 60.
And I'm wearing slides today.
Yeah.
I wear slides every day.
Oh, DirecTV's back. So, yeah.
Kind of,
so,
because that TV's on that one.
He probably had that thing, like, ready in the queue. He's just that committed for that interview. Hey, just in case, can I? So, and good on him. I mean,
I'm sure he has Pyfrums in the cave right now, ready to release today when he commits.
What time is that? 10?
10, I believe.
So, and this is what the thing that just it's so aggravating with fan bases that now Pyfrum's getting dragged. Right, like the last handful of days, and I'm like, I tried to set the stage for this a month ago. You asked me whatever question. I'm like, the funny thing about fans is like we make excuses. Like if they're ours, it's every excuse in the book. If we think it's not gonna be, then there's all this vitriol, and and angst. It's like when you're in the kid business, which I am, I think you take it all personal, right? And then you factor in, you complicate matters when it's your own kid. And I think people think it's a lot harder for me than it really is. Because it hasn't been, it can be miserable, but it's more because I empower stupidity to creep into my life, right? Like, I know a lot of things are said and people have no idea. They're talking out of their ass. And it's like, okay, you can combat every little thing, or you could just let it ride and let it play out. And I just have to let it ride, right? I mean, I've been through divorce, I've contemplated suicide, I've lost my dad, right? I lost my brother unexpectedly. Like, everything else, like, I can compartmentalize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've played in front of 90,000, you've had successes, you've had failures. Like, I've just learned to compartmentalize, but it still bugs me for people to just drag kids through the mud.
Well,
like,
it's because it doesn't affect you. It affects the people that you
well,
care about.
And the thing about it is it's like, it's not the kid's fault. Like, I just wish, like, the adults in the room would be the adults. So what are we gonna do now? Because here's all the speculation. Oh, what's Brick's gonna do? What's Massey gonna do? Oh, there's no room for such and such, and that's why I'm like, do you guys just make this stuff? Like, I try to, and I'm a fixer by nature, so that's mistake number one on my part, right? Like, you can't fix stupid. And some things you just have to let go, right? But, like, if he says yes to Nebraska today, are you time commitment people, or he was put on the clock, or he's not this, or there's plan B and there's not room, all the negative stuff that's been said the last couple of weeks, is he all of a sudden going to be your guy again? Because I sure did see the same goddamn thing with Davon Hall. Right? When he was ours, oh man, national hero again. Woo! Go Davon. 2 weeks ago when he told us Nebraska cut him off, hey man, where's Ja'Cory? Like, I'm like, Hall. Do you guys over the years, it's maddening. And it's like, and it's why it's one of the reasons why fundamentally and I'm like this about a lot. Some of it is negative, right? Like, because I'm not good at it. But sometimes, like, I went a long stretch without talking to my sister, long time ago, and my mom would always say, "Hey, that's family. That's your sister," and I would say, "Hey, listen. Just because you're called something doesn't mean you are something. There are certain traits that go along with that name. When we start having those traits exuded, then I'm gonna, oh, hey, that's still your father. I hear this heard this since I've been. Oh, that's his dad. Hey, guess what? Birthwise, sure. Is he acting like it? No. So I can't respect him like that. There are some adults that just don't act like adults. So I can't treat you like an adult. Like, I've never been in this, and I'm not saying this is right. I'm just telling you it's my personality. Just because they call you something, if you don't act like that, I may not treat you like that. So it's just like, I can't. Well, the adults with the kids. It's like, listen, man, they're 17, 18, 19 years old. You're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, what's the difference here?
When you were 17, 18, and 19, what timeline were you on? Were you on somebody else's, or were you just wanting to go home and play video games and relax?
It's strange times out here.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Damon Benning and Andrew Rogers here on Coffee and Cream.
Oh, you know, first name, last name.
I think I did that to open the show too. DB and Andrew Rogers here for Coffee and
Robbie
Cream.
said it too yesterday, and I'm like,
You're first and last for the pod. I can't wait to ask him about that. How'd that go?
Pod was cool. Like, you know,
I like the name of it, Dish and Ish.
So,
are you the ish or the dish?
So it's not exactly what I wanted. I let like Ravi and Sasha kind of won out. Like I wanted it to be something like dishing-ish.
Ooh, I like that too.
That's what I wanted. But then, like, they're way more creative and stuff. And so I just was like, that turned into dish-and-ish. And, you know, we have the greatest artist in
Scotty Boy.
Man, he is. He's the real deal.
He's just make sure to time out. Make sure to time out 30 minutes on your calendar for Scott.
Or like if I'm having a bad day, right? Like that's I should just pop up to 3 sometimes. You know what I mean? And just because he's just a cool cat. And plus, like when I was first really trying to figure things out and I was coming up to Hurrdat, he was the only one there.
Yep.
Him and Grace. Mm-hmm. Those were the only two. Because I'm like, hey, how do you people work like
yeah, more
this?
Times than not, you'd come in and be like, do you guys work?
Like, what is going on?
But you'd come in on Tuesdays when it was
I come
at home days.
Yeah, and I was like, is this a thing? But he was always there. He was always there. We talked about because he has a similar story to our SRO at Westside.
Okay.
Although my SRO fell out of a
truck.
No,
Plane?
much. Yes.
Oh, no way. I was just guessing.
Yes. And survived. He fell off similar bodily injuries.
Wait, he fell out of a plane without a parachute?
Dude, my SRO is one of the coolest people in the world. But
you're skipping past the story for me. How did he survive?
Well, he shattered bones.
How far did he fall?
So I just let him talk. I didn't get into it, but the sudden impact from when he hit the ground, his heels and his legs, and he probably in theory should be 3 inches taller. But I love him, and this is even before I've known him, because when you're in public schools all the time, sometimes people say athletics because can be the face of your institution.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's your SRO, your resource officer, your police officer that's in the building. And I've seen some great ones. I had Bonham at North and Martinez at Burke or Millard North, and Burke was fantastic. I've just seen some really good folks. Kilgore is, and most people are afraid of him, kind of. He looks like, if you drew a cartoon cop, police officer, he looks like that guy. Clean shaven, fit, the super strong jawline. He looks like he would be, but I love him because he's just a straight shooter. And when he's wrong, people can lose their lives. So they want him to see gray, and he just doesn't. I can appreciate that. Probably because I'm a waffler and I can be a little wishy-washy. So I admire the traits in other people that I want to have in myself. He's fantastic. But anyway, back to Scott. So he was telling me about, did you know that he shattered all these bones in his legs?
Nope.
Oh, he fell off a ladder. Yeah. Oh, this was on a Tuesday. It's me, him. It's me, him.
Ladder is probably what? 12 feet?
I forgot to ask him how high it was because I just let him go.
And that's why he said he's shorter now than what he should be.
Listen.
Did you fall off a ladder too?
No.
Oh, that's a cold shot. That's tough. No, so, and we'll talk to Ravi at 8 because Ravi asked me some questions about recruiting and the diamond in the rough and the 3 stars and the 4 stars and the 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can get into it with that because as on the heels of Pyfrom today and Nelson yesterday, but ask him that story. He just the bone shattering, the bones breaking. But I mean, shout out to the to the SROs. I didn't mean to go all deep about Kilgore. I'm telling you, spend some time. There are times. So I'll go to Westside during the day. He's the first person I go to talk to. I don't want anything except for just to shoot the breeze. Hey man, how you doing today?
The fact that you go out of your way to talk to somebody.
He's just a cool. Yeah, it's not my thing. It's not.
That's why I know that it means something. It matters.
Because I'm usually better for being around after having been around him. So I usually try to seek him out. In no particular order. It's usually my AD, SRO, head coach, kids. I mean, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, what about Jay? No, she's never in her office. I don't even know where she is.
Most of the time, I'm just searching for her.
I remember one time, Caleb asked me something about being in the school, and I was like, oh, no, this is a minute ago. And I poked my head, and there were I don't know, however many students in there. And I went back to the cafeteria because I had to meet one of the coaches. I think it was Illinois or somebody. And I said, hey, do you see the guys downstairs? And no. I said, who got you out of class? And he said, Jay. And I said, well, did you see her? And he's like, no. And I was like, I said, welcome to my world. I said, I'm here a couple times a week. I said, I never see her either. He looked at me and he goes, why do you think I feel? I was like, oh, that's cute. You vibing together. You miss your bestie. But no, it's just weird how the whole the dynamics that that like Ravi was talking about yesterday, and he'd been sitting on this a while. I kind of felt like he's a lot like you. He just ambushed me, right? Hey, I got a question for you.
I never ambush you.
There you go. Yes.
I say I have a question. I at least prompt it. That's like me going to war and being like, hey man, you're on the other team, I'm on my team, but I will shoot you at some point.
And then we got into this philosophical talent evaluation thing. And this is on the heels of you being on social, because people don't know what set you off yesterday, but some of it was social media and how people were treating recruits. And then you doubled down.
Yeah, some was personal, some was recruits, and then I did.
You doubled down last night, and I read it. I read through the whole column, right? And I get it with how you want people to be treated, but with recruiting and fans, it's like, again, you have to be able to like compartmentalize,
right? And you got to.
It's frustrating sometimes.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of life, it's like.
But I think a lot of it's reasonable too, because at least with the stuff last night, like I want people to. And
plus, this certain Twitter account,
right?
I follow him, and people think I'm crazy. Right? They're like, "Oh man, why you give that guy any love?" I'm like, I'm not giving him love. Plus, he's never said anything disparaging. Except for last night, for whatever the reason, I don't know why he brought Caleb into it, but I'm like,
well, that's what I ended up sending you, because I was like, wait a second here,
dude. People
do the homework.
Listen, when it's all, I'll tell this. So when it's all said and done, we'll tell the story, right? Because there's lots. We got whole threads started now. On message boards. So
well, look, I'm cool with having an opinion. Like, no matter what, at the end of the day, your opinion's your opinion. Nobody's going to change your opinion. They may enhance your look on something, but they still won't ultimately change your opinion.
You gotta remember, the empty can rattles the loudest. So like the vocal minority sometimes is strong, and it's not really the way that it is. So sometimes you just got to rest in. Sometimes it's not even what you know, it's what you think. That's like having faith, right? One of my favorite Jeremy Camp songs, I Walk by Faith. Sometimes you just have to lay your head down at night and say, you know what? Because I believe. And outside of that, it doesn't matter really what anybody else is telling you. And I think one of the beautiful things about this job is you open yourself up to such criticism, right? Because you have opinions, and sometimes you're in it and you're talking, and people hold you accountable, and they'll pit it against their viewpoints. But what you'll learn is over time, resolve, right? There'll be conviction, and you'll kind of the really cool thing. This sounds weird. You'll learn how other people think. And at first, like growing up in the first couple, 30 years of my life, I didn't care how anybody else thought. It's like, well, I think this. But as I've gotten older, like there's some value to other people's perspectives, even if I don't think it's particularly fruitful, like gonna bear fruit. It does allow me. My oldest sister, she's kind of she's with Bloomberg now, super smart, right? And I remember we were having this conversation about social media. Social media was making her mad last year or last couple of years. She has a very difficult job, very good at it, but very difficult. And I was like, how, we were just going through like people's opinions affecting the way that you think. There's a lot going on. And I said, the weird thing about my job is when people call or people email or people DM, which they often do, and they disagree or they don't like it, there's usually something that you can learn. And I just remember her, like, she's so savvy and established now. Like, she picks and chooses who she wants to give her time and energy to, who she doesn't, right? And so I could admire that about what she does, because she's the hammer at her particular job. Like, she's the buck stops with her. I think for us, it's still part of the growth process because the dialogue is so ongoing.
Well, and I'll add this too. You had said, growing up, I didn't really care what other people think. Like, I said that,
but you did.
But I still cared.
Yeah, I did, and that's why I got in trouble.
Ravi up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, you're welcome. Andrew Rogers. Happy to be back and happy to be joined by Ravi Lulla for the 8 o'clock segment on today's show. Ravi, good morning.
What's going on, guys?
I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk 2 days in a row, man. I feel like that's kind of weird when you're not co-hosting.
It's true. We don't usually do that.
I
We'll have to figure out something here.
Yeah. How about you host, DB's the co-host, and then you guys ask me questions.
Yeah, you want to be the interviewer? Hey, I'm here for the interview. We just like been opening up the can this morning. I don't sometimes like
getting personal.
Yeah, and you know me, like we just get talking and stuff just comes out. But I think it's interesting, especially on the heels of Carter Nelson's commitment yesterday. Yesterday. Especially after the pod and when you and I talked about the talent evaluation thing, do you get the sense, are there enough of those? Do there have to be enough of those because it's local? That's what's important. Like, what's your take when you pit it against the philosophy that you have about talent evaluation, which I hope you get into, versus like nabbing big fish?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal world, right, is that the big fish are talented. Like, you hope that you know what I mean? Like, you hope that the highly regarded guys, the fans want you to get, because that's what this is really about, right? Because 25 years ago, we didn't have this conversation really, because even 20 years ago, it would be, hey, we're going to print the names of the guys we signed in the newspaper, and they'll be on the team. You probably won't see them for like 2 years, but this is the recruiting class. Everyone's like, okay, cool. And that was mostly it, unless you got like really, like there was such a small niche of fans that would like buy recruiting magazines and get into it that way. Whereas now, I would say that even mostly casual fan, at least at Nebraska, has at least some reference for recruiting. So the big fish in that sense are kind of constructions of this whole recruiting apparatus that we kind of feed into now. And not to say it's a bad thing. I dive into it like everybody else does, but you would like that the big fish that the fans and the media kind of dub as like, or other schools, that was the big thing with Carter Nelson, was some of the other offers that he had, right? And people that wanted him, that kind of dubbed him as the big fish. So when those guys are in your state, especially a state like Nebraska, you really need to bring them in if you can. But you shouldn't do it at the cost of your talent evaluation, and like for whatever reason. And I'm not saying this is the case with Carter Nelson, but if for whatever reason there was like a 4 or 5 star kid in the state, and Matt Rule and staff are watching the tape and they bring him to camp and they're like, we just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want him to bring that guy in just because he's considered highly regarded. Now that's a huge risk, right? That is a bigger risk than taking a chance on the guy with no offers, because people want you to take a chance on the guy with no offers. They want to believe that the kid from their town is good enough to play at Nebraska and everybody just missed him. They don't want to believe that the kid that's dubbed, this 4 or 5 star or super highly touted or whatever is not as good as they think he is. And so that's like the biggest challenge, right? If they ever end up in that situation where there's a local kid that's really highly regarded and for whatever reason, they're just not in on him, like they're just not interested whatsoever. That would be the biggest challenge, I think, to their talent evaluation convictions, because that's a really, really hard sell, especially if he's successful somewhere else.
Ravi, I've been bothered over the last couple of days, and just kind of like things that I read on social media, and I probably have to do a better job of picking and choosing what I let bother me. But, sometimes I don't, and I'm just curious, how do you balance what you see on social media and what you let bother you that come across like with different takes, whether it's recruiting with Nebraska, whether it's, the 3 stars from the no stars, whether it's stuff like for you, I mean,
what Ravi does? Ravi
goes, he gets after
hey, I'm just telling you, now's not a good time unless you want to get blocked. That's right. How Ravi handles it.
I'm just kind of curious, like how you kind of scale your balance, like of what you let kind of intrude you and what you just kind of avoid.
Well, I mean, it really, and I find this to be true, not just of how I deal with things, but how I believe other people deal with things, it usually has way more to do with the headspace I'm in when receiving that information than it does the person saying it in the first place. And I find that when I say things to people and they react a certain way, it's usually vice versa, right? Usually their reaction has way more to do with whatever headspace they're in than what I'm saying. Obviously, there's exceptions to that. You can't just like pop off saying heinous things to people and expect results. But in like general, normal-ish conversations that we have around sports and sports media and stuff like that, honestly, and that's, DB was kidding a little bit there. A lot of times, like if Creighton takes like a terrible loss, Creighton's one of the few teams where like I still have like a pretty deep emotional investment. It's like Creighton basketball, Nebraska football, and whatever Steph Curry is doing. Like those are the things that I'm serious. Like
You'd have been mad at me because I ordered his sandwich wrong from Subway on Saturday. So next time I'll get that right.
You went wrong going to Subway in the first place.
Listen,
but,
I was with Micah, your guy, so that's not my fault.
Unless Subway's a sponsor, then it's delicious and I don't eat anywhere else. But
it's not, so you're good.
But it has so much to do with like the place that I'm in, right? So like there'll be, and listen, if I said something to bring on an onslaught, I sit there and take it. Like earlier this year, or last year, I guess, beginning of the basketball season, I had about as bad of a week on Twitter as I've ever had because I went on. Listen, I popped off. It was my fault, and I took it, right? I went on before the Nebraska-Creighton game, and I said Creighton was going to win by like 30. Like I gave like a 90-63 prediction on the air directly before the game, and shockingly enough, a lot of people heard that. And so when Creighton ends up losing by 10 and plays terrible, ends up in this 6-game losing streak and whatever, I sit there and take it because that was on me. I went out, I said a crazy thing. It didn't work out. I took the consequences, right? But there's other times where people will pop off about stuff totally out of pocket. And I'm just kind of sitting there like doing my thing and like not bothering anybody. And those are the times when I was like, yeah, I just don't need this person interacting in my life, And so honestly, it's way more about like, hey, what's good for my headspace? What's better for, it's probably worse for my social media presence, but what's good for my like mental health? Like if I'm sitting there and like, okay, this person consistently bothers me in terms of like, they make me think about things in the course of the day that like, I just shouldn't have to deal with, or I don't feel like are good for me, then I block them. But if people have like genuine questions, concerns, disagreements, I'll talk to anybody. Like I don't have an issue with that at all. But if people get out of pocket, I'm probably just not going to deal with it.
Ravi, when you're talking about like, yesterday, you were talking about how you can appreciate the whole diamond in the rough philosophy because of the confidence that it shows in talent evaluation.
And vision. That's the most important part.
So
the talent evaluation means nothing without the vision to get you to knowing what you need.
How do you gauge the litmus test?
In what sense?
Like whether it's working out or not. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it a particular player? Is it like how are you gauging if it fit the vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it's going to be an eye test thing, right? Part of it's going to be just how it looks and how guys like if you're seeing these guys consistently get on the field and perform that nobody else wanted, then you kind of have to be like, oh, they know what they're doing, right? The other thing is just wins. I mean, that's kind of the litmus test for everything we're doing here, right? I mean, not everything, because I genuinely think there's coaches, and it appears Rule and his staff are these type of coaches that they want to make an impact on people's lives regardless of football, right? Regardless of what's happening on the field, they want to leave a place and the people in it better than they found them. So obviously that matters too. But for what we're talking about, at the end of the day, people are going to look at wins and they're going to look at production, right? And they don't have to hit on all the guys they take these kind of swings at, right? But they probably do need to hit on some if they're going to continue to devote this much of their recruiting class to them. And so, and to be fair, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, best case scenario, they're getting more ready-made guys, and they don't have to take as many swings. I don't know how much of it is.
Do you remember? You said ready-made. That struck a nerve. Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember when Coach Pelini used the term "we need more ready-made guys"? And it's like Nebraska fans lost their minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, well, which way? So is it somewhere in the middle? Or are we just going to get mad at what we want to get mad at if it doesn't fit our mindset? But he basically said, hey, listen, we got to get more ready-made guys. Right? We don't have time for this. And he said it out loud, and he was kind of vilified for it. Frost says, hey, look, I made some mistakes early on in sacrificing because I wanted to win. Like, it seems like when coaches try to be forthright, even if they are making mistakes, I still don't know how forgiving we are.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say we're a particularly forgiving people as like fan bases in general, right? That's not a uniquely Nebraska thing. I mean,
no, that's true. It is a lot of it is nationwide.
And Nebraska is probably more forgiving than most places. If you like to dive into SEC message boards at all, just for the torture of it. But I remember the Pelini thing, and I think there's a couple things that really made people angry about that. And it's the same thing that I think made people mad about Frost, even though they were different situations. Like the we need more ready-made guys makes it sound like they're just waiting for these people to enroll and show up at their school. Like, who has control over what guys come to your school?
Yeah,
but kind of you and your staff.
But Ravi, why do we give Alabama and Georgia credit when we say, "Oh man, 5 stars win championships. 5 stars win championships"? It's like, really, guys?
So we also have to understand that there are several rungs on the ladder between where Nebraska is right now, where they need to go, and then having conversations about Alabama and Georgia. We don't like to say that out loud, right? But we kind of talked about this on the podcast yesterday, right? Nebraska fans need to be okay with, hey, right now we need to build like Michigan State or Iowa or Wisconsin and find guys that fit what we do. And who cares if anybody else wants them or not, but find them, develop them, and get them on the field so that we can win football games. At that point, if you're winning, and this is where it got frustrating with Pelini, if you're winning 9, 10 games a season,
then you got a next level.
Then you have to be able to take it to the next level. That's both in recruiting, that's in development, that's in game plan scheme. You have to take everything to the next level. That jump from 9 to 11 or 10 to 12 is really big.
Significantly tougher than going from 3 or 4 to 6 or 7.
100%. I think, and people will kill me for this sometimes, I don't think winning 6 games in college football is difficult because I've seen so many bad coaches do it. Right? You can't convince me that it's hard when I've seen these guys who are proven bad coaches. Like, they get fired, they get terrible career winning percentages. Like, they still won 6 games a handful of times. Like, you cannot tell me that it's that hard if those type of, and if you're wondering, I'm talking about Lovie Smith right now. You can't convince me that if those guys can do it, that it's that hard. Now, going from, I think it get exponentially harder from go to like 4 to 6. That's probably the easiest jump, right? Then it's a little harder to go from like 6 to 8. Then it's a little harder to go from 8 to 10. And then that last rung is probably the widest, right? You've got the least amount of helper steps on the way to go from 10 to 12 or whatever number you need to be at to be in a national championship or a college football playoff, right? The steps get harder along the way. They get steeper. But when you are at the 9 or 10 step, which Bo was for a long time, and you can't level up to the one after that, and then you say things like, well, we need to get more ready-made players. It's like, well, that's on you, my guy. That is part of the job. And if you can't get those guys, you have to be able to take the guys that you're developing or that you're targeting in development and turn them into those guys. And if you can't do that, then that's on you at the end of the day. You can't just be like, oh, we need more ready-made guys. Well, you have a couple options and you didn't really choose either one. So, don't put that on anybody else. That's on you. So I think that's why people got so frustrated with the Pelini thing. But at the end of the day, I think ready-made players are the easiest way to do it, obviously, if you're in a position to get those guys. But I still think there's this saying that people were talking about before the Warriors won their first title, not to bring everything back to Steph Curry, but I'm going to. When they're like, a jump shooting team's never won the title. And it's like, that's only true until they have it, or until that's not true anymore, right? It's only true until a jump shooting team wins the title. Like, yeah, we say recruiting wins championships, and that's true. But it doesn't have to mean you have to be in the top 5 of recruiting to win a championship. I don't believe. Because I know that TCU got smoked this year, but they got pretty dang far into that process without what I would consider elite talent.
Oregon made a run without recruiting at an elite level.
Oregon's a great example of it because
and remember when Georgia used to recruit at an elite level and they were the outlier for why they weren't winning. So
exactly. Well, I'm like there's years where LSU they always recruit well. LSU's results based on the recruiting kind of mediocre for a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
USC had the same thing in the later Carroll years and into
that's a good example.
The Kiffin and Sarkisian years. Like it happens all the time. The elite talent doesn't fix everything, right? It theoretically helps, but unless you have everything else in line also, you're not going to get to that championship level. But you brought up Oregon, which is the example, right? Because they never recruited at a super high elite level. They recruited at a level that I think Nebraska can consistently get to, which is like top 15, top 20. What made them elite is that their talent was elite fits for what they did. And that's why I talked about vision earlier, because Oregon's vision was unwavering in how they wanted to play and who they needed to play in that style. So they could go out and get a 3-star Marcus Mariota and know this guy is perfect for what we're going to do. They could go out and get a 3-star LaMichael James and say this guy is perfect for what we need. This guy is ideal for the way we want to play football. And that, to me, the 5-star fit is more important than the 5-star. And that's where Nebraska has missed, because I don't think they knew what a 5-star fit was for the last several years. We use this, I'm sure you know this saying, DB, Fritz, from education, where it's, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it's going to think he's stupid his whole life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're recruiting 5-star fish, but your offense or defense requires him to climb a tree, that 5-star fish doesn't matter. Like, he's not going to look like a good football player. But if you recruit a 3-star fish and you have a great plan for him to swim, then it's going to look great.
Mm. So when talking timing then, because there's a lot of criticism on how quickly Coach Rule and his staff were sending out offers in the summer months, particularly. So when talking timing, do you think they were too early to the punch? Or if they waited around, would they still get the guys they wanted? Or do you think they're just following their own master plan?
Yeah, I mean, with the guys we're talking about, those guys would have been available because they weren't probably going to get another Power 5 offer.
But what if they did, though? Like, what if they waited around and that's what they were worried about?
Well, maybe, and that's fine. But what I think it says is the timing doesn't matter if you believe that that's the guy, right? Stars be damned, whatever, timing, whatever. If you did your eval, you talked with this kid, and you're like, okay, this is a kid that meets the baseline athletic ability and talent that we need for his position, or maybe he greatly exceeds it. He meets the makeup of what we want out of a kid. He meets what we want culture-wise and all these kind of things. If you find this kid, I think they believe that regardless of the timing, regardless of how many stars he has next to his name, regardless of whether the recruiting websites have ever heard of him, much less have a picture of him, like, I think they believe that if they find a guy, then they don't care what time of year it is, because we've seen so many staffs play games. It's not just a Frost thing. I'm going all the way back to like Pelini with Harrison Phillips, with like they're playing games around like, well, we're kind of slow playing this in-state guy, or we think we can get him later, so we don't want to put the offer in yet. If you like a guy, make an offer and take the commitment. This is not that complicated. These guys act like they're trying to come up with, like battle plans. It's not. If you like the guy, if he's a good fit, you make the offer, you take the commitment. The problem is, if you don't have absolute certainty in your vision and what you need to make that vision happen, then your certainty on recruits evaporates almost immediately. And I think that's what we're seeing here, is the difference between previous staffs that didn't have that conviction in their vision and their blueprint, and then Rule, who does. And listen, it might not work, right? Like I'm not guaranteeing that, because they did this and this and this, that these are the right guys and they're going to be successful. I have no idea if any of these guys are going to play. I have no idea if this blueprint is going to work. What I do know is that without a doubt, these guys have a plan and they know exactly what they're looking for. And that in and of itself is an improvement from what we've had in Nebraska.
Robin, let me get you out on this. We've heard coaches, Metro, statewide, other college coaches. We've heard players. We've heard guys of high school coaches, of the players that are being recruited. We keep hearing the word adults. Like that comes up a ton. How much of that is just because it's what we're not used to versus, for whatever the reason, versus those are just the qualities that you want in leadership, period?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of the qualities that you want in leadership, period. But I don't think it's like different isn't always better, right? So I don't think it's just, this is not what we're used to. The fact is we're coming off of a couple coaching staffs but especially the last one, that did not operate in a professional manner for a large part of their time here. Not saying everybody on staff, but starting with the head coach and then the rest of the way down, that was not a staff that operated in a professional, in a organized and detailed manner. And I think the organization and attention to detail is a lot of it, right? Those are a lot of the things that people are talking about when they say, hey, we finally have adults in the room. It feels like they have a plan, and it feels like they know how to execute that plan. That might be it more than anything.
Ravi Lulla, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. You sparked some thought in the recruiting mind.
Yeah, DB, don't forget to say the name of our podcast later, because I didn't say it at all.
Yeah,
I already said it.
Dish and Ish.
There we go.
Cross promoted. I get you, my man.
You'll hear a lot more from Ravi this coming month, too, in July in the back end, because he'll be filling in.
He's our guy.
He is the guy. Ravi, have a great day.
See you, boys.
When we come back, let's revisit some of those thoughts, because I think there was a lot in there that we can unwrap. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. DB, huge fan of the music.
I had to get used to it. I like
it warmed up to me.
I like songs. And you can't use songs because of this whole copyright.
That's why you sing.
I think I sing because there's joy. Someone asked the question, why do we sing? I sing because I'm happy. And this is what I mean. Nah.
Keep going.
Nah.
I'll put a beat underneath it. I'll make the
that's
track.
like Sunday church.
Is that on the projector screen?
I watched so there's like not two. Actually, full disclosure, I don't even know why I'm going here with this. There's probably a handful of movies where I can always go back to a similar the same scene, like last night, for instance, right? Wanted to be motivated, whatever. So I watched the scene from The Equalizer, same one. I watched
Which one? The one in the train?
Nope, Equalizer 1, where he sat at the table. He dropped off his glasses and they were cracked and they had blood. And he goes, he's not coming back.
Yes, indeed.
And he sat at the table and he said, I've done some very bad things, Nikolai. Some things that I'm not proud of. I promised someone that I love very much that I wouldn't go back to doing those things. But for you, I'm willing to make an exception. And I rewound it probably 306 times on Sunday. Have you ever seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman?
Nope.
It's fantastic.
I've read Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
It's kind of cheesy at the end, but they sing this song when they're in church at the very end, and the girl's mom is a drug addict, and she like goes to rehab real quick, and she like walks through the church doors and sings. I play that scene a ton, and that's one of what I was singing is part of one of those songs.
Well, that was an actual song? You weren't just making that up on the fly? You could have just said, hey, I made that up on the spot, and like, I'm pretty dang awesome.
No.
And I would have believed you.
No, I'm gonna shoot you straight. So, Gladiator. when he spits in the dirt, and
yep.
Slave. You take your mask off and reveal your name.
Are you not entertained?
Like, I'll go back to the scene where Leonidas kicks old boy, the messenger. You bring me the heads of slaughtered kings.
This
is I play
Sparta.
That. Yeah, so I'm weird like that. But anyway, I don't have any
This is Sparta.
Yeah.
That is a great
with the
like slow motion scene when he
uh,
puts his foot into his chest, and
yeah.
you just kind of see him like
how deep that
Woody
pit
in
is?
Toy Story falling through the cards.
Yeah. Like there's a lot. So you should.
Well, even the lead up to that with the horses and all that is fantastic.
You know what I played last night late? When Cameron Poe somehow grabbed a rabbit that was in the water getting ready to go down the gutter in Con Air. I have no idea how he reached in there and grabbed this bunny to give to his little hummingbird when they played the little song from Leanne Rimes at the end of Con Air. How did he grab that rabbit out of the gutter?
It's a movie.
No, you got to go back and see it, though. Even if, like, you had to, like, film it, like, it took some...
How many takes?
Oh, it took some timing. It's a little dirty rabbit, man.
100? Did
bite
his hand?
And he said, no, it's okay.
And I have rabbits burrowing in my yard right
yeah,
now.
so
I've had
I
to put
watched
rocks out there.
I watched that clip last night. You just never know what motivates me. I'm kind of weird.
Hey, I'm cool with it. I'm cool. You know, when I got on the point with Ravi about timing, because this kind of like motivates my love of recruiting. Because even though there's not a handbook for something,
you love recruiting. I think I never have. I never have.
And you know why I love
Calvin
recruiting?
Strong, Michael Decker, Harrison Phillips. There was a stretch where I hated recruiting.
Well, okay, so you're judging that though on misses, right?
No, I'm judging that on what I listened to people say while they were recruiting.
Okay, well that's something that I'm kind of blocking out when I say, hey, I love recruiting.
Yeah.
I love watching kids make a decision to go play at the next level. I love the ones that are good enough to do it. Man, I'm team high five for them. So that's why I really enjoy this time of year for the kids. As for the timing of it all, I think that's interesting, and it piques my interest. No, not really.
I don't either.
Like I kind of do the bro shake, like where you like go in and then you like snap it off and.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either.
Yeah, well, you're just a fist bump guy. So.
Keep it simple.
So you like finish what I do with the bro shake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
So because there's no handbook, I just kind of find it fascinating about like timelines. Like when is the right time to do it? When is it not? Are you too early? Are you too late? Is there ever a point that you can really say that?
Right, Ray Charles. Nighttime is the right time.
There you go.
You know the nighttime.
So, and we talk about it all the time with like these 3-star guys. And I know I'm going back to a previous point, but, we talk about what this staff expects out of their recruits. They expect you to be committed to them like they're committed to you.
Guthrie, Donovan, guys like that.
Right. Why would you as a recruit, if this is the process that the staff went about, if they went after the 4 or 5s, like now, like just kept going all in on them and waited
like
on.
If March 25th was now June
25th, right? Why, as a recruit, would I think if I didn't have a lot of power offers? Okay, say I only had like 1 or 2 power 5 offers.
Okay,
and I'm like, okay, I have to choose between Illinois and Mississippi. I'm going to choose Mississippi. Okay, well now Nebraska comes knocking. Why would I change my mind? Like you've kept pushing me off for so long. Why why am I going to want to ride with you?
Some people are like that.
And so that's why I don't get behind the fact that, hey, it's too early for any. And that's why I asked Ravi the question. When he started going, I'm like, but wait, I'm not talking about the guys that don't have any power offers, because there are some out there that Nebraska went and got. Like if I had a D2 offer and I committed and then Nebraska came knocking, like, yeah. I'm going to change my mind and go to Nebraska. No, I'm talking about the 3-star guys that are getting looked at other places, whether it's 30 offers like Lacey or whether it's like 2 or 3 offers from a few other guys. Like I'm still wanting Nebraska to be ahead of the game and to get the guys that they want. And so when he went on to the fit side of things, I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Because that,
a good guy to ask
what
is probably a guy like Tyson Terry.
Yeah. Why so early? Right.
Because people asked him why so early. And I'm like,
Well,
ask me why so, and I'm like, do you not know?
Moral of the story is the staff goes after who they want, and the recruit goes to the place he wants.
Yeah.
That's it
for sure.
And look, it's the staff's team. It's not our team. It's not a fan base team. It's the staff's team, and they're going to make the decisions that they think is right for the team. So I'm not going to judge somebody before a crime. Like, no, I want the crime to be committed before I take them to court. So, timing is just weird to me because I don't know if there's a right time ever. I don't think those that say, hey, they should wait, they're completely wrong because they may be right.
Yeah, because you do have the, hey, take all your visits guy.
Hey.
But the recruiting calendar has fast-forwarded quite a bit. I mean, it just depends on how much the school is invested in you, right? Because I think ultimately, like the schools know how long they're willing to wait for a particular recruit. Like I firmly believe that. Like I know how Wisconsin thinks. I know how Nebraska thinks. I know how K-State thinks. I know, you know what I mean? And if a school's out, if you haven't heard from a school in a couple weeks or 3 weeks, it's probably a good indication.
And really, at all said and done, what's the worry at the end of the day? The worry is being too late. Right? Being too late to the party. So wouldn't you rather be a little bit early versus being on time versus being late? I feel like always showing up early. Like what did Lambeau say for the longest time? He's like, hey, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Like that's kind of how I think this staff operates when it comes to recruiting. If we're not early, we're going to end up being late.
And you also have some players like it's just different. Like some players are super just happy to get there. But let's just give you 2 case studies. Guthrie, okay, and this is fandom at its peak right here. Guthrie says yes, and it's first coach that showed interest in me. I'm all in, okay. And we're like, oh man, why didn't anybody else like this guy? Quinn Clark says, man. Kind of eye-opening, right? FBS versus
I didn't know if I could do it.
Didn't know if I could do it. And we're like, oh, I don't know.
Here we go again.
Same situation handled differently by young people. I think the moral of the story is you can't broad brush the way that young people think because it doesn't match up with our thought process.
We will get to Lance later on in the 9 o'clock hour, but we have Brian Edwards up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Hopefully our pockets will get a little richer this segment as we get to talk to Brian Edwards at Vegas B. Edwards.
You should have played his parlay last week, Parlay King.
I know.
Nailed
it. Dang. Choo-choo train. Brian Edwards.
I thought you were punching. What's up? I thought you were punching it in as y'all hear me, right?
I did. Hey, all right, so here.
I thought you were punching it in as we spoke last week.
B. Hang on. Full disclosure.
He's mad at himself.
You don't have to rub it in, for one. That's point one here. Point two, I'm clumsy. So, like, when I had things preloaded, I then, like, later on in the day, forget I had it preloaded. So then I close all of my tabs and my
never
phone.
Confirmed it. Never confirmed it.
Well, and I have to go to the border to do it.
Yeah, he has.
So I couldn't do it in my.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, so that's why it got lost in the mix. And then I had a buddy in town, and he's a huge UFC fan. I'm like, Troy, I have the bet for us. We talked to Brian Edwards on Thursday,
and he's a UFC
big
junkie. UFC
junkie.
Yeah,
and then I pull open my my DraftKings app, and boom, it's gone. And I'm like, I should DM Brian right now. And then I'm like, no, I probably could figure it out. And I got like 3 of them, but I didn't get all of them, so I'm kicking myself because of that.
How far of a drive to the Iowa border are you guys?
Only about 15 max if I go to the place I like to go. My lucky parking.
Well, let me ask you this: all you have to do is have the DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever app, and just have money deposited, and then just go. Mm-hmm. You're in the border.
Yeah, I think it's all based on geolocation.
Yeah, the geofencing.
Okay, so I got you. So if I'm in Mississippi, I can just get the apps, make a deposit.
Yep.
And okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird. I mean, in Illinois, I had to be at a casino to register my mobile app. Same thing in Iowa initially. But once I was registered one place, more times than not, it allows me to do it every place. So if I'm in a certain area, I'm blanking on legal states because those are the only 2 states I'm ever in. But if I'm in a new state, normally I can just place a bet just like that.
So Florida, we're supposed to get it next year. What's the deal with Nebraska? Is there a bill in the
So
state
tickets,
legislature?
you can print tickets. You can go to kiosks up in Lincoln. They just opened the sports book up there actually last week. And you can go up to a kiosk, place your bet, or go up to the ticket counter and get it a literal ticket. But mobile betting isn't legal here yet. And I don't know if it will be ever, but I know that the state of Nebraska is missing out on a lot of money by only having it as at the ticket counter versus if they did it mobile, because I ran some numbers last week and Mississippi had only about like 13 million in profit. And then you looked at Colorado and they had 43 million because you add mobile betting to that for the year or I'm sorry, for the month of April. So,
so Mississippi doesn't have mobile. So I can't do that. Mississippi.
No.
Oh, I got to go to the sports. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, where are we at, B? We want to start with some totals.
Yeah, so I decided on Arkansas and Ole Miss here in the last 48 hours. I'm going to go the over on
before
both.
you really get into it, B, did you know that last month they were both plus money for the win totals that you like?
Well, I know DraftKings still is on Arkansas at plus 125, but that number is 7. Like at FanDuel, the number for Arkansas is 6.5, and the over is minus 122. So I'd rather pay the minus 122 and be able to cash a winner on 7. Now, tell me what you're thinking on Ole Miss. I'm not sure if that was plus. I know minus 105 at Circa for 7.5 on Ole Miss.
Right. Yeah, so I saw that Ole Miss, if you only wanted 7 last month, you could get them at plus 105.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Well, yeah, that sounds better than over 7.5 at minus 105. Certainly.
It seems like a lot. Let's start with Arkansas first because I'm curious to get into Ole Miss.
Okay, so Arkansas, look, they weren't good on defense last year, and they lost a lot of guys, but they did an awesome job of hitting the portal, not just for talent, but veteran talent on the defensive side. So they got 18 transfers, 5 were 4-stars, and their transfer-specific class was number 11 per 247 Sports. So they got defensive end John Morgan from Pitt, 14 career sacks. They got Trajan Jeffcoat from Missouri, 29 career starts at Missouri. They got 2 DBs, Walcott and Johnson, who between them have 33 career starts at Baylor. They got a D tackle, Rose from La Tech, 32 career starts. Probably the best of them, Antonio Greer, a linebacker from USF, 27 career starts, 238 tackles, 10 sacks. And they got a former 5-star from Georgia in the secondary, Jaheim Singletary. Now, they lost a lot of wide receivers, but they got Tyrone Broden, a wide receiver from Bowling Green, who's a 4-star transfer, and they got a couple of D2 guys who had big numbers at the D2 level. They're both 6'4", so big targets. Look, the main starting points for me with Arkansas is KJ Jefferson, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Rocket Sanders, for my money, might be the best running back in the country. And you know the O-line,
one of the most dangerous.
Certainly, man. He runs powerful and he's fast. And now look at the schedule. And I've got them for 7 wins, 2 losses, and 3 swing games. So, I mean, even before the swing games, I think they're going to be at 7. The swing games, I have A&M, where they are +3 in Arlington. At Ole Miss, not lined yet, but they'll be an underdog probably. And then at Florida, but they get 2 weeks to prepare for the Gators, and the Gators will be coming off the Georgia game. So I'm going over 6.5 on the Razorbacks. And last thing on them, remember last year, they lost 4 games by 9 combined points. Should have never lost to A&M. That fumble by KJ that turned into a 13-point swing. I say 13 because A&M missed the extra point, was huge in that one.
You know, they get guys like Hainsworth and Pratt back at Tulane. Are you just penciling in that opener at Tulane as a dub
for Ole Miss? I've actually got that as a initially I marked them 6-2 with 4 swing games. That was one of the swing games. As I kind of decided, all right, get off the fence on these swing games, I made them 8-3 going into the Egg Bowl. and their number is 7.5. So I had initially the 6-2 with 4 swing games being at Tulane, LSU at home where they're a 4.5-point dog. Where's my other swing? The Egg Bowl, and then A&M at home where they're a 3.5-point favorite. I gave them a win against A&M, a win against Tulane, and an L to LSU, and that still has them 8-3 going into the Egg Bowl in Starkville where they're a 1.5-point dog. I've got their losses being Georgia, at Alabama, and LSU. I think they've got a great quarterback room. Judkins.
They're deep.
Yeah, right. And then they got Austin Simmons, the guy who reclassified and was supposed to be a Gator. So they've got 4 QBs. But Judkins 1,567 yards last year, 16 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry average, and they were 5th in transfer specific per 24/7 Sports. They got 20 transfers, 8 4-stars. So yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to be good again. I had their over last year, going with it one more time.
Let's stay close to home because I'm curious because I think they're one of Nebraska's swing games. In my opinion, when people go from the 5 to 7 range, I think this team is firmly in the middle of those 3 swings. Let's go to Champaign with Bielema, kind of his prowess, him kind of rebuilding them from the lines on out, coming off a really good defensive year. What do you think about Illinois?
So they've got 4 guys on defense coming back that had at least 4 sacks last year, and Keith Randolph and Jerzan Newton, they had 13 and 14 TFLs respectively. And their D-line's ranked 13th by Phil Steele in his national unit rankings. We'll see on Altmaier. Obviously, they lose the D coordinator. They stayed in-house with Aaron Henry as their new DC. 6 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. I marked them 6-2 with 4 swing games. I gave them a W against Nebraska. The short week certainly helps the home team. Being a Friday night game. Not that that's that big of a factor, but I had their swing games at Minnesota, which they'll probably be a underdog, or at least I think they would be now. Wisconsin at home, at Maryland, and at Kansas. I think they probably win at Kansas. I don't know. It's a tough one.
So I had a hard time with whether at Kansas was tougher or when Penn State comes there.
I marked Penn State an L.
Okay. Is there an early line on that?
You know what? I have not seen a line on that one.
I don't know, man. I think Penn State's got to pump the brakes at the quarterback spot, but that one was interesting too. I didn't know which game was tougher to pick, them against Kansas or Penn State coming to their place.
They're both tough ones. I hear mixed reviews on Aller. Am I pronouncing his name right? The Penn State quarterback.
Yeah, me too.
I hear good things and I hear bad things, and I'm like, well, I haven't really seen him play.
Yeah, and then you look at Penn State's projection, and you're like, well, they must all think it's going to be good things.
Yeah. Some of their local yokels say pump the brakes.
Yeah, B, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
All right, gentlemen, y'all have a great weekend. We'll see ya.
Thanks,
you too. That's Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com and BrianEdwardsSports.com. Michael Bruntz up next. Stay tuned.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I feel like we are talking to DBs. I'm not gonna label a number here. I feel like we are talking to one of DB's favorite guests.
Old MBZ?
Yeah, this is your guy.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
Michael Bruntz, snarky, smart as all heck, and smart. Yeah, that's what I meant. Smart as all heck. As we welcome Michael Bruntz to the show. Bruntz, this is perfect. I'm going to mess with you. You could almost call it a game. You good to go, Domingo? Wow.
As far as perfect games go, was that like the most casual perfect game ever?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did anybody get the ESPN update saying, hey, Herman's pitched 7, perfect innings? Because I didn't. And normally you always get that update.
He said, that is a great word, Bruntz. If there is ever such a thing for a perfect game to be casual, that was it.
It was 99 pitches, and it was funny. I get the A's score updates. The Athletic did this, and you got like the automatic like Yankees winning 11-0 or whatever the score was. Somebody went 2 for 3, and then like 10 minutes later, the fact comes in that it was a perfect game. I was like, you're kind of burying the lead here, guys. But I was watching it, and like I was I was at Dallas Braden's perfect game that he threw.
That's awesome.
And there was like you could like feel the tension in the stadium. And I had to I was watching that last night, and I'm thinking the only way this is not a perfect game is if like somebody from Oakland leans into a pitch here. Like there was no doubt in my mind that was going to end that way. So
that's
good for him. But I do have to say, in Oakland's defense, that was the first no-hitter against them since 1991. So the streak is over.
Wild
they were selling
stat.
T-shirts.
Hey, they were selling T-shirts.
Hey, there's a group in Oakland that was selling T-shirts after they announced the move. That it was like, well, at least we haven't been no-hit in like 5,000 games or something like that.
Well, you guys have kind of become this sympathetic figure. Even the commissioner was like, "Hey, I feel really bad." Like, you're a fan.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't, and he followed that up with like, "Well, they should have shown up for games." Well, that's not the problem.
I was just getting ready to ask you how much that had to chafe your hide. Just the smug, like, double talk. You're like, really? You don't even love the sport you commission. How are you speaking on this?
Nobody hates baseball more than Rob Manfred. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I'll stand with you there. I'll stand with you. I'm not afraid of that. Do you think the A's could have avoided a perfect game if they were to change, since they're going to move stadiums, right? So if they would change the A''S to A''Z, go like with the Z like in Bruntz instead of the S?
Maybe cut down a foul ground or something. I don't know. That's more of a chance for that to happen.
They don't have a new stadium yet. They don't even have a design for it. So who knows? But maybe they go with the Z. That'd be all right.
I'd be cool with it.
Bruntz, how much consternation and hand wringing, or did it go away with getting the highest rated guy in the state? Was your message board with how Coach Rule and the staff were doling out offers and people saying yes right away?
It's a different conversation for that one based on the others. Put it that way. It's interesting, right? I mean, like, you almost kind of needed that one in some ways, I think, for the narrative. I mean, I don't see it that way, but I mean, that was the discussion. So I don't know, you go out and get the number 40 overall player in the country, that kind of changes the perspective a little bit, maybe.
Does it matter that not even some of the fan base looks at him like that's seen him play? Or is it just blind eye, top 40, we got him, he's ours, in state, let's go?
Both. I mean, I think there's an understanding that there's going to be an adjustment. I don't know how big of an adjustment, but
I don't either. It's going to be fascinating.
But I don't know. I mean, you probably played against people in your career and where, you had like a step up in competition. And I'm always kind of the thought that, if you're an athlete, it's going to play, like sure, like you're going to have, different schemes with moving to 11 man and the players are certainly going to be bigger that you're going up against and all that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're starting from the point you are with him, that seems like you're going to have an easier transition there than what most people are going to have. But
so you know what you know what I think it is. I think this is just me. This is because you're talking about the guys that I've seen or guys that have a step up. You know what the difference is, in my opinion, and I don't know if this is going to be this way with Carter Nelson, but it's one of the things that I compare him to Fedoni. See, because he's not Thomas. Thomas, in my opinion, was a significantly better high school player, but it's not the physical attributes. It's this thing about Fedoni where he's so gosh darn mean-spirited and competitive, right? Like, he has to be the best. It's very, very important to him to make sure that he gives it to you every chance he gets. I think when guys change competition, it's the emotional change, not the physical, because you're going to have some bad nights. You're going to have some bad days. You're going to have some days where people are better than you. So it's all quick. It's all on how you can get acclimated to it, because it's going to be a shock emotionally, not physically, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I'd never thought of it that way.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the thing I wonder with Carter too, you know, and it's not just him. I mean, this is the case with a lot of guys, but I think especially when you have somebody that does the events in track and field that he does, that plays as much basketball. You also kind of wonder with, okay, you get to Lincoln and you're doing nothing but football, and you're doing football specific strength and conditioning, and that piece of it too, I wonder, I believe will help him tremendously.
1,000%. That I think that very same thing in my own household. I cannot wait until he just trains for football.
Because I don't know. I mean, especially guys that play basketball, it's almost impossible, I feel like, to really gain significant weight. You're kind of always fighting that. I mean, if you're, you know, doing a high jump like Nelson is, I mean, you can't get too big for that. I mean, there's limitations there. I mean, I even think about that with some of the guys that were in Nebraska's class last year. I mean, some of the jumpers there too. I mean, it's just a different conversation when you're more football focused. But I mean, that's what I'm kind of eager to see with him too, is, you know, if you're just doing football 24 hours a day, you know, 365, you know, what does that kind of look like? And I think that'll, you know, certainly benefit him too.
How about a guy like Jalen Lloyd? Just imagine Lloyd just
putting some meat on his bones,
just training for football specific.
No, I know.
Like,
yeah,
that's kind of scary. I mean, I know he's a $165, but man, like, I think that's a really good point too, Bruntz. So we'll trade good points.
Hey, there you go. It's a good point tennis match here. I mean, Jeremiah Charles is kind of the same way, right? Like a guy that's an elite jumper that, you know, you kind of wonder what that looks like. I mean, I know they're going to do track too, but
yeah. So stay there. What does the dual purpose then do? Because I mean, the focus here was like, hey, I can't wait till they train for football. But then you get the handful of guys that are going to do both, and their body sizes are going to have to be a little bit different from sport to sport.
Yeah, I don't know. That's for somebody that has way more knowledge and way more experience than I do. So
I see it in wrestling play out more, Bruntz. You know, like those tweener guys that wrestled at like, you know, 89 or 205, or well, those are 89's an old weight, but that kept their weight down. Like, I don't think it's going to matter for Tyson Terry. I mean, it's going to be a heavyweight. He's going to be a heavyweight, but it will change his conditioning and flexibility after a certain amount of time, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's a difference too. I think when you get over 300, right? Like if you're adding, you know, 20 or 25 more pounds to a kid's frame, I mean, there's going to be implications for that, and kind of how it kind of gets into your strength staff being really smart about how you add the weight, because I mean, there's good weight and bad weight. You got to figure out how you keep the explosiveness and the flexibility if you're just putting weight on like that.
Bruntz, we just got done talking about win totals with Brian Edwards, and yesterday DB and I talked about how Nebraska was listed for the first time that I saw, or given 7 wins, or the over 6. And, you know, we settled on the fact that it all boils down to those swing games on the schedule, the Minnesotas, the Iowas, Illinois, Purdue. Do you think, though, that the recruiting rankings has anything to do with this? Like the recruiting rankings of 2024 and the national attention that Nebraska is getting? I mean, even in 2023, I think they're like 25th in the country. So do you think the national outlook on Nebraska is getting some love, so in turn people are starting to trust what Rule has put together?
I don't know if it's the recruiting piece of it. I mean, I think there's probably some respect that is left over from what he did at Baylor and Temple. I mean, I think because when you start talking about swing games and you get into, you know, what's the deciding factor in those games? I mean, they're usually one possession games. It's a question probably of turnovers. You know, probably, you know, your ability to run the ball. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think I think that's probably where it's coming from more is people are just maybe looking at that and maybe projecting a little bit. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm really eager to see. I mean, Nebraska for so many years has been so bad in those kinds of games that, you don't want to say, man, it can't get worse. But, I do think that, that's going to be a test of kind of where Matt Rule and his staff are is when you're, in a one-score game with Illinois, are you able to kind of match play with Brett Bielema's lines? Are you able to run the ball late and kind of salt out the late win? I mean, those are going to be the questions for the staff. I mean, I think, I'm eager to see what that looks like. I'm not really sure, where the optimism is coming from. 7 still feels a little high to me, but I do think that there's a fair amount of respect there. And the thing is too, is there's so many unknowns around the Big Ten West too right now. I mean, there's as many question marks as Nebraska has. I mean, you've got a new head coach at Purdue. The quarterback situation at Minnesota is a little, different. Iowa's got a bunch of new guys. I mean, there's a lot of question marks on the rosters that Nebraska's going to be playing. I mean, Wisconsin's got a new head coach. So I think that probably factors a
Bruntz, you still there? Can you hear us okay? Oh, there you
I
are.
got you.
Okay. Hey, so Bruntz, let me ask you something. If you had to pick, and you pit it against the last 10 years, right? So let's go 2012 to 2022, and then 2023 to 2033. Would you take better players and move up 8 spots in the recruiting rankings, right? So average 25 to maybe 17, or better situational football to get Nebraska over the hump? You could only pick one of those two things.
I can't have both. I'd really like both.
Yep, I know it. I know it.
I don't know. I mean, all things being equal, I think I'd probably take the better situational football.
Me too.
I mean,
and I don't think it's close. To be honest,
I don't know that talent has been the issue the last 10 years. So give me some situational football. Give me a positive turnover margin. I would take that too. Is that part of better situational football?
You're speaking DB's language by saying you don't think talent's been the problem.
Isn't that crazy that Nebraska can't even win the turnover margin during that? I'm just talking plus a full 1 turnover to the good.
There was a random year in there that they were close to positive, and I know Riley.
It was a decimal point, right?
The Riley Lightning and Abala year in 2016, they were good. But yeah, it's kind of remarkable that they've been so bad in that stat for so long. I don't think that talent's been the problem. I mean, I think it's been a development issue, and I think it's a situational football issue. I mean, just the way that games have been lost over the last 10 years, and there's a lot of 1-score losses in there across multiple coaching staffs that you could easily win if you just I don't want to say this out loud, but if you just played Iowa football. I mean, that's kind of the way things are. So I think I'd take situational football with above average players rather than blue chip type players. Although blue chip players tend to erase some of the situational football issues, but I think overall a little bit of better play late in games would have helped a lot.
Bruntz, okay, the filing cabinet's still open in my head about scheduled talk, so I'm going to ask one more thing, if that's cool. What's the best and worst case scenario record-wise for the Huskers next season, and give me your reasoning behind it?
The best and worst case?
Yep.
I don't know. Best case, you get over that 7 number. You get to like 8. I don't know. Without seeing what this kind of looks like, I don't really want to say what the ceiling is there. I don't really know what the ceiling is. I mean, I think if everything really clicks for them, you get better line play. Maybe you're in the conversation for one of those Florida bowl games at the end of the season. Worst case, you don't, things don't click. You don't get good quarterback play. You continue to struggle with turnovers, and the line doesn't take the step forward that you hoped. I mean, then what? 4 wins, 3 wins. I mean, you're kind of stuck in neutral there. So to me, I mean, you got to get to a bowl game. I mean, that's the goal. Those extra practices, if you're going to be a developmental program and hang your hat on that, you absolutely need those 15 practices. And also just kind of the feeling of momentum and moving forward with the staff, I think would be huge.
So I think Minnesota is going to look a little different offensively, especially since I think the strength of their team, it may be playing catch. And I know Galifianakis, I get it, the throwing prowess and a running quarterback, but they're not as deep at the running back spot. So I'm kind of curious, right? They lose a couple of their top leading tacklers. When Michael Bruntz is asked about going to Minnesota on a Thursday night, how close or not is that game to a toss-up in your head?
I would consider it a toss-up.
Me too. I absolutely do too.
Nebraska has the element of surprise with it being a new staff. I think Minnesota maybe doesn't have the personnel where they can just hand the ball off 50 times and run it straight at you. I mean, maybe they're going to try, but I don't see that kind of just go-to that they've always had under Fleck. I mean, I think that's going to be a really close game. I would be surprised if it was a 10-point game either way. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I just don't know that there's a lot of teams in the West right now that I would feel particularly great about just saying like, this is the absolute front runner in the division right now. So I think a lot of those in the West are going to be toss-ups for Nebraska, and Thursday night game, and I mean, just how much of a mess those that first night can be. So I absolutely would put that in the toss-up category for me.
Bruntzy, and I'm not, saying that this is going to be the case this year because we all hope it's not. But say a blowout is happening, and in years past, you pay attention to body language a lot by the guys on the sidelines, and you can just kind of tell that they're defeated and they're out of it. With this staff moving forward, and the culture that is being established, are we moving past the
onside kick at Northwestern, the turnover against Colorado,
like the hanging your head, the body language that we were easily able to identify over the last few years?
I don't know. I mean, you don't know until it happens, and I mean that was kind of, even if you go back to like the 2018 season and the way that season opened, you still saw it a little bit, I think. Not across the board, but I think I don't know how you just kind of get that out of your system as a program. I mean, I think the staff has certainly made strides. I don't think that there's a question about buy-in, but you never really know until you have that kind of a scenario. I mean, let's say, they run the opening kickback for a touchdown. Minnesota does. I mean, how do you respond to that? I mean, that I guess, those types of moments, I guess, are why you're doing the types of team building things and, why you went and got certain players out of the transfer portal even, because they're mentality guys. They're, guys that can kind of, take that on the chin and keep going. So I don't know. I mean, I would hope that it's out of the program, but you never really know until you go through it. And I think that's going to be a little bit of the challenge for this team, is how do you move the moment? And I, as much as you want to do things in practice and, have scenarios set up for that stuff, it's still, I think kind of a bit of a wild card until you actually have to experience it as a group.
I feel like you're my therapist this morning, because it was just so discouraging, right? Whether it was a targeting call against Troy or, not winning in Boulder or an onside kick in Dublin or not playing an opener because of weather. It just seems like there are these signature moments that like derail a season, and it just shouldn't be like that.
No. Well, I mean, it's Nebraska, the program needs to get to the point where they go in expecting to win and not hoping to win. And I think when you go in with a little bit of confidence, you don't let those moments snowball on you. And I don't know, maybe it helps a little bit that Nebraska is going to be starting away from home with that stuff. Because, I mean, you guys know when you're in Memorial Stadium.
That's a good point.
And stuff happens, and you kind of get like that nervous tension. You know what I mean? Like everybody
we call it anxiety.
Yeah, but it's just there. And I don't know if that helps, but I mean that to me has kind of, when you compound years of losing, you go into games like that hoping that you don't lose, and Nebraska needs to get to the point where they're going into those games expecting to make winning plays.
All right, Bruntz, 43 seconds here. Here's the quick one. Yes or no? Caleb Pyfrom's recruiting today. Does he end up at Nebraska? Your prediction?
I'm going to go against that and predict Illinois. I think there's some there. So I would. That's where my. I don't have a crystal ball out, but that's where I would probably lean right now.
Okay, Bruntz, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Caleb Pyfrom committing today at 10 a.m. So once you tune off of our show, go check out where Caleb Pyfrom will be playing football over the next 4, maybe 5 years. Who knows? Maybe it's only 3.
Yeah. You got Massey going tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of O-line targets in the hopper.
And then you said bricks too.
Yeah, coming up.
So stay tuned for that. We have the Sports Six-Pack coming your way next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
It is that time, the Sports Six-Pack, and we are here to tell you a little bit about where you can find Zipline Brewing, as they are the official sponsor of the Sports Six-Pack. How about checking out the Beer Lounge? The Zipline Beer Lounge boasts oversized lounge chairs, couches, a fireplace, shuffleboard, and a full-service lending library. West Omaha neighbors will enjoy the freshest year-round seasonal beers. And then in that inside soft interior / outdoor patio, it's a great environment for a beer, a game, a read, or a chat. Check out Zipline Brewing. You didn't like soft interior, did you?
Man,
you smiled at that.
It's kind of weird.
What's the oversized lounge chairs?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
They're comfy.
I lived next to somebody that has a lending library, and I didn't know what it was until I met your mother.
Until you met me.
Well, yeah, you were the liaison.
Yes.
The informant in between, the go-between.
You've been just taking books. You haven't been replacing.
So now she's got a pitcher of water, too, for dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She's very kind.
Won't need it today with all the rain we got.
Very kind. Very kind. Other center. Shane?
Question number 1.
Mike.
Bruce in Norfolk.
What's up, Bruce?
You wanted NFL talk. Here you go. Are the Lions clear favorites to win the NFC North? To answer your question, yes. We could move on to the next question.
Not buying it. I mean, the free world is in on the Lions winning this division.
Yeah, I don't know if I can count out the Vikings ever.
I'm taking the Vikings.
That's a team that, look, they could win 5 games or they could win 12.
But here's the thing, though, with Detroit. That offense is sensational.
They're
like,
very good.
Go
but
back
don't
and
tell me
look
that
at
the
Goff's,
NFL hasn't figured it out.
Go back and look at Goff's numbers. Like, he is absolutely
he's hated on
in Detroit. Seriously.
He's got a lot of weapons. A lot of guys on the outside. They added Montgomery to add a little toughness, some pass blocking, which is good for that team because they need it. Swift couldn't provide pass blocking. Montgomery can. But I still am not in on the fact that they're going to be a team that wins 10, 11 games and can easily take – because we're talking about, are they easy favorites?
They're the clear-cut fave.
They are the favorite
to win that division.
I just don't know if they're clear-cut because
Well, I'm telling you what the numbers
right
say.
when you look at the actual numbers of a clear-cut favorite like the Chiefs or the Eagles, whoever, they're probably they have a minus symbol next to their line. The Lions don't have that. They're like plus 135. Then you'll get into territory with plus 280 with the Vikings, and then in the 400s for the Bears and Packers, which I don't think either team will win the North. Do I hope the Bears are competitive enough too? Yeah, of course. I hope they are every year. But I am more on the Vikings than I am on the Lions. But I will root for the Lions over the Vikings.
So at quick glance, the only teams to be minus in the fave category are the Kansas City Chiefs, and who's the other team?
Is it not the Eagles?
It is the Philadelphia Eagles.
So my two examples.
So but it's just interesting because the clear cut for me this is clear cut plus 115 to win the division. The next
what's the next one?
Plus 275. That's pretty clear cut.
So what is the next one for the Chiefs when they're minus?
Well, if you start, because they're 225, so it's going to be significant.
Okay.
But that would be plus 275.
Okay, and then what's the Eagles?
Well, the Eagles are only minus 135.
And then who's the next?
Plus 175, Dallas.
So I think that's like a similar range,
It's
to
about
what it is.
So Dallas to Philly is about the same as
the Vikings to Detroit.
Yeah. The only one that
Okay,
I would
I
call
can understand how
the only one that I would call, and I'm not like debating that point. It's just like, what do we think is clear cut? I think it's relative. The only one that appears to be clear cut is the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Even though the Eagles are minus money. People like Dallas this year.
I feel like we like Dallas every year, right?
I don't.
Well, I say we
like,
as like a collective group of NFL people.
But I do feel like for as good as the Eagles have been and what they replenished, Dallas it has my interest because it would be easy just to take the Eagles. I mean, that roster is way good, but people, they like Dallas.
Well, at 175, I don't even think that's as big of a jump. Like they like that more than I would say they like the Vikings to the Lions.
It's comparable. I won't split hairs over a couple bucks in terms of percentages, but I mean, Dallas is going to have to do it with defense,
and they have it. Let's see if Micah Parsons does more than rush the passer.
Did you
right?
see him the other day on Get Up?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they were doing the piece on him. I was like, I just was harping on this.
I couldn't believe you spoke it into existence.
I'm like, he looked every bit at 255, though. He looks like a different player.
But I did tell you this, at least in a mentality point of view, he will not ever forget how to play.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he's capable of getting back in a 2-point now. He looks more like Levon Kirkland.
And that's more what it is.
I hope he was must-see TV. I hope he can keep, like I would watch Parsons just to be watching. Like he was that good. He's unreal.
Question number 2.
Denny in Omaha.
What's up, Denny?
If you could add one former Husker player to this year's team, who would it be?
Damon Benning.
I would take. God, they need some. I would probably take Wistrom or Peter. I want the emotional toughness that plays close to the line of scrimmage. Wiegert was close. I almost said Wiegert. Exactly.
You know who I really liked for a long time? I say a long time. He wasn't here for a long time. Wan'Dale Robinson.
Oh, God, Nebraska fans just cringe.
He was so talented.
Maybe that's how they'll use Lacey.
He was so talented.
He was good. Maybe that's how they'll use your guy.
Would you take Sue?
That's a good one.
Sue's great, but I would take Peter over Sue.
Peter over, okay.
Only
really
because
good
of what this team needs. Like you gotta bring some young guys along with you.
And I was thinking,
and I think that plays to Jason.
What about Chief Raves?
Well, they're going to play such a different style offense. They do need his leadership, though, like to steady the ship, because he's going to figure it out. But I would take a defensive line guy, probably.
It's a good one. Go ahead, Shane.
Question number 3.
Who is year one success more likely for, Wembanyama or Bedard?
Bedard?
Yeah, Bedard, sorry.
Wembanyama or Bedard?
Yeah.
Bedard. For me.
I don't know if it's as easy for me to say.
Oh, you take your time.
I'm a hockey guy, so I would rather it be Bedard.
I just think it's an easier transition from where he's coming. That, I mean, in its simplest form.
How old's Wembanyama?
20, I believe.
So,
is Victor 20?
Because when I think about a 17-year-old versus a 20-year-old, I would guess that a 20-year-old would be able to maturely make that transition more. But in hockey, it is different when you are that special
20.
player.
He'll be 20 in January.
So Bedard can thrive more, I think, because it's more of a you have to execute as a team in order to be successful on the ice, versus in basketball, you can really take over a game if you're one person. Does Wembanyama have that gene to take over a game with this Spurs team?
Skilled enough.
But the ball's also got to go in the basket for the stats to replicate what you want out of him to compare him to Bedard. So I see what you're saying with Bedard. Just in overall likelihood to have success in year one.
Yeah, I'll take Connor.
We'll save the other 3 questions for the back end going into the break. But before we head into break, let me tell you about the Omaha Storm Chasers, because they're back in action and you should find yourself over at Werner Park. Did you get over there for Winning Wednesday, Career Day? No? Well, how about Replica Jersey Night tonight, DB? Ho, ho, ho.
What do you got?
Replica jersey.
What are you wearing tonight? You going with your Zach Greinke?
I don't have a Zach Greinke jersey.
Zach Greinke.
I don't have any Royals jerseys, which is why I need a replica jersey.
Nicky Lopez.
Nicky.
Slick Field and Nicky Lopez.
I like Bobby Witt.
Who doesn't?
Man. Continued 6-pack after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Time now for the Sports Six Pack on Coffee. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, Shane, your beer warm over there or what?
You know he's a babysitter.
Hey, maybe you should change professions. Maybe to a nurse?
I don't get it.
Nursing that drink?
I don't get it. What do you mean?
Well, I just explained it.
I don't get it.
You don't get it? It's probably a good thing that you're not a nurse then.
He's still like, hey.
And I'm not talking about Nick. No, I'm talking about the profession.
Shane, he's talking about carrying over the sports six pack. You still having your beer? Are you nursing your beer? We're still on question number 4.
Man, you are such a dad. Breaking it down for the kid.
I mean, my man is just over here looking at you like.
Well, I'm drinking Talls.
Oh, are you? Talls of zip lines?
What do they make those now? 20 or 22 ounces?
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect?
Aren't they like 16 or 20? Or it's
So
like you can sometimes find a 32.
They look small now.
Do they? Maybe it's 12 and 16 then, like you said.
But I think it's like 20.
Really?
I don't know.
I think
I don't know.
There's always a new size for something.
I have no idea. Well,
size matters.
How about the 8-ounce cans they use now? For like some
those are
energy
weird
drinks and stuff. I'm like,
well, even beer cans, you can find 8-ounce Bud Lights out there.
That like the minis? Are those 8 or 4?
I think they're 8. If they're 4, oh man, that'd be crazy.
So I was looking at TikTok recipes yesterday for beer cheese, like brats. And guy, it's on TikTok. He used Coors and he only poured like a little bit in there, just enough to cover the brats. And then he took the brats out, he steamed them, and put them on the grill, and then put the cheese in. I'm like, did he drink the rest of that beer? Or did he just, or like, what did he do with it? I'm sure he drank
a lot of times
it was unless
use
it's
stinky
Schaefer
beer for that, right?
Unless it's Schaefer, like he's probably not buying Coors by choice, regular Coors,
right? But if it was a stinky beer,
what's
like
a stinky beer?
Like an old beer, like something you just use for cooking, then you just dump out the rest.
Oh yeah, I don't know, Shane. That'd be a 4-ouncer.
No, I'm drinking Talls.
You get ginger beer in
Question number 4.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a translator for a MLB team?
Not what I thought he was going to say.
I wasn't going to say transformer.
Yeah, Optimus Prime.
Thank goodness.
Oh, did you see?
And he's not talking about transportation either.
Anyway, let me stay dialed in here. Let's go. What? Would I rather be what?
Would you rather be a transformer for a MLB team and know one language outside of your native tongue, or know many languages, but you can't ever use that skill to work in sports as a transformer?
I'd rather be the translator and not have to work in sports. I would do international business and stay paid. I'd be rich.
I think being a
zero question.
I think an MLB translator is the coolest job.
Oh,
because you just stand by and listen to somebody speak in Spanish and then you translate to the media. I think that's cool.
Microsoft going to do business in Taiwan?
Hey,
get my flight. I'm with you. Let's go.
Hey,
I'm
talking
Gallup,
about working with an MLB
Gallup,
team.
You going
here.
over? You need me to speak. Burmese, like pythons. I got you. We're going to Burma.
You don't have to tell me that the better skill is to have the language repertoire.
Now, I'm not going in any of these war-torn countries.
If I can be an MLB translator, I'm choosing that all day, every day.
Yeah, knock yourself out. I just make up stuff.
Can you imagine?
I would.
He's saying something
hey,
like, Man, yeah, Dale. Yeah, you're the dumbest person ever for asking that question.
Complete game one hitter. How do you feel? And you'd say something, and he's like, it's a stupid question. How do you think I feel? Like, why do you guys ask me how I feel? I just threw a one hitter, and I would be the chancellor, and I'd say, it was a special night, a lot of fans back in front of 40K.
Oh no, I was thinking the other way around. And then the player says it's a special night, and you're like,
but you do.
How do you think
the lady that got caught signing the wrong thing during the national anthem? She was just faking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't be that guy or gal. Go ahead then, Liquid.
Question number 5.
Jacob in Omaha.
What's up, Mr. Padilla?
What's your ideal trade? What is your ideal trade ID? What? For Lillard. What is your ideal trade for Lillard?
Hold on. Before you go anywhere.
Trade idea for Lillard.
He goes ID.
I said ideal trade for
ID.
I get it. Ideal trade.
What is your ideal trade idea for Lillard?
Okay.
Boy, that's
also would you like to see him go, or are those two different questions?
I'd like to see Lillard moved.
I would like to see Damian Lillard in Miami.
I would not. I would like to see Damian Lillard in San Antonio.
Working with Victor Wembanyama.
Yes.
Or Wembanyama, as our little friend likes to say.
Would you stop? Why are you so... We're doing too much right now. You're shattering his confidence.
Just poking him.
I'd like to see him in San Antonio. San Antonio has all those first-round picks. Quietly where I wouldn't mind, because the Bulls need a shakeup.
Oh, if he went to Chicago.
Like, move Levine, move another one of those volume scorers plus a pick or something.
You could get away with that. You could really. Would you keep DeRozan or would you keep Levine?
No, you keep DeRozan.
Easily, hands down, couldn't agree more. But Zach LaVine is a stud and can take over games, but he's not Lillard.
Yeah. Go like Kobe White, Levine, and a pick. Move Lillard. I don't know. You're good.
I'd wash my hands with that.
Shane, how are you a Bulls fan? You don't even like the NBA.
Why can't I be a fan of a team and not like the sport?
Seems kind of futile, but that's just me.
That is me in a nutshell.
Question number 6.
Michael and Lincoln, I have 2 questions. Andrew, what have you gathered over your short time living in Nebraska about the state, the people, and just the difference living in a place you didn't grow up? DB, you grew up here but did the NFL thing. What about your experience made you say, I never want to live anywhere else but Nebraska?
Oh. Okay, so you know what I've gathered over my short time living in Nebraska?
People are exceptionally nice.
Well, yeah, that's one. But, even because I can compare it to Sioux City, and Nebraska has trumped Sioux City. I mean, it's not even close. But it's that this state's a hard place to leave. So I say that, and it kind of comes on the heels of, we heard from Carter Nelson at the beginning of the show about him saying, like, Nebraska keeps me Carter while everyone else thinks I'm Carter Nelson. It's a lot of what we heard from Jordy Ball when she came back home, wanting to be Jordy of Nebraska versus Jordy Ball, that everybody sees how you look. I was talking to Tom Chattel at the College World Series, and guy from grew up in Kansas City, lived in St. Louis a little bit, then came to Nebraska, never thought he was going to stay here long, and then 30 years later, here he still is. Mm-hmm. It's a hard place to leave.
Yeah, it is extremely kind. I think for me, I don't know, mine was probably more fear. Like, I went back to old reliable. Like, you get cut and enough, and you live out of a suitcase. I think you just want to settle in, not settle like in the city. But I love the city. Like, so some of the things that I do miss, and it's changed over the last 8-9 years, so it's not as big of a deal. I missed being able to get a lot of different things to eat, like variety. Where in other parts of the country, like let's say if I was in Charlotte or Washington or somewhere, like, for example, I could get like grits on the menu, or there was always good barbecue, or if I wanted seafood, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that kind of changed, but we've gotten so much better with the restaurant game. It's not as big of a deal anymore. But my family was here.
Man, talk about advantage Nebraska in more ways than one.
The food scene is impressive.
People sleep on the state.
And it's hard for things to stay open, but there are a lot of good.
It's so funny. Like, you asked me in high school, like, Andrew, in 10 years, you're going to live in Nebraska. I'd be like, what?
I get
what?
I get
I'm
it.
not going to Nebraska. And now I'm talking about it being a hard place to leave.
Norwalk's finest. He wanted to go back to Iowa. Glad you're here, Shane.
Amazing Daniel on YouTube says Sioux City's a pretty low bar, man. Oh, I know. I know, but that's where I used to live. So I'm just comparing it to the places I've been. I've only been living
Daniel's tough.
in
He
3
ate-
places.
He ate his own hometown.
I told him he misspelled sewer.
Tough crowd. Was that it, Shane?
That was 6.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. I still got.
Well, I forgot we split. I was like, how did we get through that?
I got a 9-pack over here, so I'll still be drinking for the next half
I
hour.
don't even
Oh,
make
for betting
those.
bites?
What is a 9-pack? You just
It's his own thing.
a 9.
That's the new thing now.
Is
the
it?
9-pack
Oh,
is.
speaking of which, I think today is the 4th. There's some grocery store that's having amazing sales today, Shane, and it's soda.
Hey, I saw the soda at Family Fair 4 for
I think
$14.48 or
that
something.
might have been what Boy sent me. I gotta go back.
Which is cheaper than what we paid at Family or at Fairway.
Oh,
Both of those stores get me mixed up.
well, I'm intrigued.
Because you could get 3 cases, buy 3 get 3 free. Remember when we did
Yeah,
that?
I
And
saw
each
Sam's
case,
trunk.
each case was like $8.99. It was expensive.
Right.
So we ended up paying about $27
For 6 cases.
for 6 cases. But we could have, because there was a deal at Fairway
So
or
it's
Family
4
Fair that was 4 for $14.48, which means you could have gotten 8 cases for $30. And Family Fair ended up being better than
So
Fairway,
where is
even
this
though
now?
Family Fair has the 4 for $14.88.
Gotcha. And you can go to Hy-Vee and get, if you spend $60, get 40 cents off your fill saver.
And your guy, I can't. Is it John? Is it somebody? Who's the guy that sends you all the Hy-Vee?
Oh,
like,
yeah,
deals?
they had chicken breasts, 99 cents. a pound.
99 cents. He sent me that too.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Hey, ask me if I went. Oh, I did.
Oh, I did.
I appreciate all the people out there. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be wearing a replica jersey.